I was called a weirdo at school. After 7 years, I returned to my hometown, and now those who laughed are trying to get to know me themselves. Back in high school, they called me a freak. 7 years later, I walked back into my hometown, and suddenly everyone who mocked me was desperate to shake my hand. That's not an exaggeration. That's not me dramatizing for the sake of a story. This is exactly what happened. But to understand why their smiles and invitations meant nothing to me, and why they soon regretted ever laughing at me, you need to know how it all started. High school was hell. Not just the usual teenage awkwardness, but the kind where every hallway feels like a war zone. Every lunch break feels like a prison yard. My classmates didn't just ignore me, they targeted me. I wasn't rich. I didn't wear the latest sneakers. I was skinny, quiet, and obsessed with books, especially about coding, tech, and building things most people thought were nerdy. That was enough for them. It started with whispers. There's the freak. Then it escalated. Mocking notes stuffed in my locker, cruel laughter when I tried to answer questions in class, accidentally spilling drinks on me in the cafeteria. I remember one time, during gym, when a guy tripped me on purpose in front of the whole class. I hit the floor hard, my glasses snapping in half. Instead of helping, the others roared with laughter. My gym teacher just sighed, told me to toughen up, and walked away. Teachers did nothing. My so-called friends distanced themselves so they wouldn't get targeted. And my bullies? They thrived on the attention. Every insult, every humiliation made them stronger. The worst part wasn't even the physical stuff. It was the constant reminder that I didn't belong. They called me names: loser, geek, freak, trash. And the more I tried to ignore it, the more they pushed. There was no safe place. Even online, they'd make fake accounts to send me messages like, "Why don't you just disappear?" I thought about it, more times than I'd like to admit. But here's the thing, I didn't disappear. I didn't break. I learned. I adapted. I took all that pain, all that anger, and turned it into fuel. While they wasted their teenage years chasing popularity, drinking at house parties, and making fun of me, I spent hours locked in my room learning everything I could about computers, business, and investing. I taught myself coding from scratch. I freelanced small projects under fake names, building a portfolio no one at school even knew existed. By the time I graduated, while they were bragging about their senior prank or the number of parties they went to, I had saved up my first $5,000 from freelance work. The day I walked out of that school for the last time, I swore to myself, I'll never be at the mercy of these people again. One day, they'll regret every single word. Fast forward 7 years. Life had changed in ways no one back then could have predicted. I had built 2 successful startups, sold one for a life-changing amount of money, and kept the second growing steadily. I had employees, a downtown apartment, connections with people who once seemed untouchable. In the tech world, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. But success wasn't enough. Not yet, because in the back of my mind, I still heard their laughter. I still saw those sneering faces from the cafeteria. And when I got an invitation to my high school reunion, everything clicked. This wasn't just a casual event. This was the stage. The chance to walk back into the lion's den, not as prey, but as the one holding the whip. I decided I was going, but not just to show off. Oh no, my plan was bigger, darker, and far more satisfying. Because revenge isn't about shouting, "Look at me now." It's about making them realize, on their own, just how badly they screwed up. It's about watching the pride drain from their faces when they realize the freak they mocked holds all the power. And believe me, I made sure that when I walked back into that room, not a single person would forget it. But how? That's where the real fun begins. When that reunion invitation landed in my inbox, I didn't just smile. I laughed, out loud, because this was it, the perfect stage, the perfect opportunity, and the perfect audience. But I knew one thing. If I walked in there unprepared, just flaunting money or success, they'd shrug it off. Jealous? Maybe. Impressed? For a second. But people forget flashy cars and expensive clothes. They don't forget humiliation. And humiliation, that was my specialty now. First, I gathered intel. I didn't rely on rumors or half-baked memories. I wanted details. So I spent a few nights scrolling through social media, quietly watching the lives of my former classmates unfold. Most of them hadn't changed a bit. The popular girls who mocked me? A few were already divorced, posting vague quotes about self-love while begging for likes. The guys who shoved me in the hallways? Many of them worked dead-end jobs or posted old throwback photos, still clinging to their high school glory days. But then there were the ringleaders, the worst of the worst. Jason, the golden boy, quarterback, king of the school. He used to call me Roach. Now he was a washed-up gym trainer with a beer belly, posting motivational quotes he clearly didn't follow himself. Brittany, Queen Bee, the one who orchestrated a rumor that I stalked her. That lie haunted me for months. She was now selling overpriced skin creams through some pyramid scheme, acting like an entrepreneur. Kyle, my worst tormentor. He once hacked in my email just to plaster embarrassing messages across the school smartboard. He was unemployed, living with his parents, and occasionally doing odd jobs. I couldn't have written a better script myself, but still, just showing up more successful than them wasn't enough. That would have been too simple. My revenge had to be elegant, sharp, a slow blade, not a shotgun blast. So, I made preparations. First, the entrance. I didn't want to just arrive. I wanted to arrive in a way that would turn every head in the room. I rented a sleek black car, not the most expensive supercar because that would scream overcompensating. No, I chose something subtle but classy, a vehicle that said, "I've made it, and I don't even need to flaunt it." Then, the appearance. I worked with a tailor for weeks. The suit had to fit perfectly. Not flashy, not loud. Just clean, sharp, and commanding. I wanted them to see me and immediately feel inferior, without me saying a single word. My posture, my clothes, my watch, every detail was a weapon. Next, the allies. I wasn't going to walk in alone. That would make me look like the same isolated kid I used to be. Instead, I reached out to a few business contacts, young, successful entrepreneurs who owed me favors. I told them it would be fun, a reunion, free drinks, a chance to network. They agreed. So I wasn't walking in as the weird loner. I was walking in as a leader, surrounded by powerful people who treated me like an equal. But the crown jewel of my plan? The presentation. You see, reunions usually have a moment where people give little updates about their lives, what they've been doing, what they've achieved. Most people mumble about jobs, marriages, or kids. But I wasn't going to update them. I was going to perform. So I had something special prepared, a short, polished video montage about my company, the charities I supported, the tech innovations I'd launched. Professionally edited, cinematic, the kind of thing you'd expect to see at a TED Talk or corporate gala. My connections with the venue ensured that when it was my turn to speak, that video would play on the big screen. Now, here's the thing. I didn't want it to look like bragging. That would have killed the effect. No, I framed it all as if I was thanking them. Thanking the people who doubted me, who mocked me, who told me I'd never succeed. I even used a phrase I'd repeated in my head 1,000 times. I owe it all to my high school experience. Without that pain, I wouldn't have had the fire to achieve any of this. It was the perfect dagger hidden inside a smile. But I wasn't done. Oh no, the real revenge wasn't just about showing off. It was about flipping the balance of power so completely that they would squirm in their seats. So, for the after party, I had something else in mind. I made quiet calls. The reunion was being held at a local event hall. I offered to sponsor the entire evening anonymously. Drinks, catering, even the DJ. The only condition, my name would be revealed as the benefactor after the event had started, when everyone was already comfortable and enjoying themselves. Imagine their faces when they realized the freak they once mocked was literally paying for their good time. And just when they thought it couldn't get more humiliating, I had one final twist. Remember Brittany, the one who spread that lie about me stalking her? I discovered she was still running her business. And guess what? Her business depended heavily on online reviews and reputation. I had quietly bought a small competitor of hers 6 months earlier. At the reunion, I would casually mention this acquisition. Watching her face when she realized her financial future was tied to me, priceless. Everything was lined up, every move calculated. The night of the reunion was approaching, and my pulse quickened each time I thought about it. Not from fear, not from nervousness, but from the pure anticipation of finally, after all these years, turning the tables. They thought I'd be invisible forever. They thought I'd just fade away. But I was coming back, not as the victim, not as the outcast, but as the storm they never saw coming. The night of the reunion arrived. I remember standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my cufflinks. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the awkward, fragile kid they once called a freak. My suit fit like armor. My hair was clean-cut. My posture radiated confidence. And behind my eyes, a fire burned, the kind that only years of silent suffering could create. When I stepped outside, the sleek black car I'd rented gleamed under the streetlights. My driver opened the door. I slid into the leather seat and took a long breath. This wasn't just transportation. It was the prologue to my performance. Every detail had to hit like a blade. The venue came into view, a renovated event hall near the old high school. Lights glowed from inside. Laughter drifted into the night air. From a distance, it looked harmless, people reminiscing, drinking, catching up. But to me, it was the battlefield. As I approached, I could see them. Groups of former classmates milling around the entrance. The same faces, older now, heavier, less polished. Some of them wore forced smiles, trying to mask their disappointment with life. Others were already tipsy, clinging to the only thing they had left, nostalgia. And then it happened. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. I stepped out of the car. My entourage followed, 3 sharp-dressed entrepreneurs I'd invited, laughing with me like we were old friends. To anyone watching, it looked like I was the center of their universe. And in that moment, whispers spread like wildfire. I could see it in their eyes. Confusion, disbelief, recognition. Is that him? No way. That's the freak. Holy sh*T. Look at his suit. Jason, the former golden boy, was standing near the door, beer in hand. His jaw actually dropped when he saw me. His gut strained against his polo shirt. The man who once shoved me into lockers now looked like he was struggling to breathe after a short walk. I smiled at him. Not a friendly smile. A knowing smile. He looked away. Inside, the reunion was already buzzing. Balloons, cheap decorations, a DJ spinning throwback songs from our teenage years. Tables lined with name tags, as if anyone needed reminding. I grabbed mine, glanced at the old photo, skinny, awkward, glasses too big for my face, and let out a soft laugh. As the night unfolded, the conversations grew louder. Old cliques reformed, like they never outgrew high school. And then the brave ones approached me. First Brittany, the queen bee. She looked older, her smile lined with years of fake charm. "Oh my God, I barely recognized you," she squealed, clutching a cheap cocktail. "You look amazing. What have you been up to?" I tilted my head, pretending to think. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Built some companies. Sold one. Running another. I let the words hang in the air, casual yet lethal. Her smile faltered just slightly. "Wow, that's impressive." Others joined in. People who wouldn't even look at me in the hallways were suddenly desperate to catch my attention. Compliments, fake laughs, forced interest. I played along, polite but distant. Every word I spoke reminded them that the social ladder had flipped, and I was standing firmly at the top. Then came the update session. A microphone, a small stage, and the chance for volunteers to share their lives since high school. Most stories were bland. Marriages, kids, jobs. Some tried to embellish, but the room's attention faded quickly. And then it was my turn. I walked to the front, unhurried. All eyes followed me. The DJ dimmed the music. My business contact handed me the remote. I cleared my throat. High school wasn't easy for me. I began, my voice steady. A lot of you probably remember that. I was quiet, awkward, different. Some of you were less than kind. I paused, scanning the crowd. Faces shifted uncomfortably. Brittany looked at her drink. Jason scratched his neck. Kyle, the hacker, my worst tormentor, snorted, but his smirk didn't reach his eyes. "But here's the thing," I continued. "Every insult, every humiliation, every moment I was made to feel worthless, it all gave me something. A reason to fight, a reason to work harder, a reason to succeed." I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up. A cinematic montage played. My company's logo, clips from news interviews, headlines about my tech innovations, images of me shaking hands with investors, speaking at conferences, donating to charities. It was sleek, professional, undeniable. The kind of presentation that screams success without me saying a word. The room fell silent. When the video ended, I looked back at them, smiling, calm, controlled. So, in a strange way, I guess I owe you all a thank you. Without that fire, without that pain, you gave me everything I needed to become who I am today. The silence was deafening. No applause. Just stunned faces, whispers, shifting feet. Exactly as I'd planned. I walked back to my table. My entourage clapped me on the back, laughing softly. Drinks were served, the party resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted. Now, every conversation circled back to me. Who I was, what I'd become. And just when they thought the night couldn't sting anymore, the event manager took the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick announcement. Tonight's food, drinks, and entertainment have been generously sponsored by one of your very own alumni. Please give a big thank you to my name. Gasps, stares, murmurs rippled through the crowd. They were drinking my champagne, eating my catered food, dancing to the music I had paid for. Their good time depended on me. I caught Jason's eye across the room. He looked like he'd swallowed glass. Brittany avoided me entirely, her smile gone. Kyle sat at the bar, staring into his beer. And me? I just sat back, sipped my drink, and enjoyed every second. Because this was only the beginning. The reunion was already mine. Every glance, every whisper, every forced smile confirmed it. But I hadn't come all this way just to bask in their awkward stares. No, this was only phase one. The blade was sharp, but it hadn't cut deep enough yet. So I sharpened it. The first strike came naturally. Brittany, the same girl who had once spread the lie that I stalked her, nearly destroying what little reputation I had in high school. She'd been circling me all evening, laughing too loudly at my jokes, acting like we were long-lost friends. But when the announcement revealed I'd sponsored the entire reunion, her fake charm cracked. She finally cornered me near the bar. You know, she said, forcing a laugh, I always knew you'd make it big. You were so driven. I told people you'd be successful one day. I tilted my head, sipping my drink slowly. Funny, I replied, because I remember you telling everyone I was obsessed with you, that I followed you home, that I was dangerous. Her smile faltered. For the first time, I saw panic behind her eyes. Oh, come on. That was just high school drama. You know how it is. Oh, I do, I said, leaning in just slightly. And I also know how business works. Like your little skincare empire. How's that going? Her jaw tensed. It's fine. I smiled. Good. Because I'd hate for you to hear that one of your direct competitors just got acquired by my company last year. You might recognize the name. Her face drained of color. She knew. She knew. Her online reputation, her income, her fragile brand. It was now in my hands. I didn't even need to threaten her. The realization alone was enough. She muttered something about needing to check on a friend and vanished into the crowd. Strike one. Next came Jason, the golden boy, once worshipped like a god, now a bitter shadow of himself. I caught him near the buffet, laughing too loudly with a group of guys who used to be his teammates. He spotted me and smirked, as if trying to reclaim some power. So, big shot, he said, slapping my shoulder a little too hard. Guess you finally crawled out of your cave, huh? I looked at his hand, then at him. Calm. Cold. Yeah, I said softly. Funny how the cave leads to a penthouse in the city. How's the gym treating you? His smirk froze. The others chuckled nervously. I pressed on. Last I checked, your membership numbers were what? Under 50? That's rough. Especially with all the lawsuits gyms are facing these days. Liability is such a tricky thing. His face twitched. He knew I was right. I could see the doubt, the shame creeping in. He tried to laugh it off, but his buddies weren't laughing. They were watching me now. Respect shifting. Power tilting. I leaned in. Careful, Jason. The glory days don't last forever. But you already know that, don't you? He said nothing. Just stared at his plate like a scolded child. Strike two. And then came Kyle. My real target. The worst of them all. The one who had hacked my email in high school, who projected humiliating fake messages across the smartboard in front of everyone. The one who told me I'd never be anything but a joke. He'd been avoiding me all night, drinking heavily, sitting in the corner like he wanted to disappear. But I wasn't going to let him fade away. No, he was going to feel every ounce of what I carried for years. I walked over, slowly, deliberately. The crowd seemed to part from me, eyes following the moment like they sensed something was about to happen. "Kyle," I said, my voice low but sharp. "It's been a long time." He looked up, eyes glassy, mouth tight. "Yeah, guess it has. You used to be good with computers, right?" I asked, feigning curiosity. "Always hacking things. Always showing off." He chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, well, didn't exactly work out." "Oh, I know," I said, smiling. "Because you see, I run background checks on everyone I do business with. And guess whose name popped up in a police report 3 years ago? Credit card fraud. Didn't stick, of course. Charges dropped. But records don't lie." His face went pale. "Al, how the hell do you know that?" I leaned down, close enough that only he could hear. "Because I own the security firm that handled the case. Your name is flagged in our database. Every potential employer that runs your file sees it. That's why you can't get a real job, isn't it?" He froze. Sweat trickled down his temple. I straightened, voice louder now. "But don't worry, Kyle. I'm sure one day you'll find something. Maybe cleaning computers instead of hacking them." The crowd chuckled. His humiliation was public. His face burned red, his fists clenched, but he didn't move. He couldn't. Strike 3. At that moment, I knew it was over. My plan had landed perfectly. Brittany's fake empire shattered, Jason stripped of his pride, Kyle exposed as the fraud he always was. The others watched, silent, realizing the hierarchy had flipped completely. The freak was gone. The outcast was gone. In his place stood the one person they could never escape me. And then came the final touch. The nuclear strike. I raised my glass, calling for attention. The room quieted. Every eye on me again. "I want to thank you all," I said smoothly. "Truly. High school wasn't easy, but it forged me. Without that pain, I wouldn't have built what I built. So tonight, let's celebrate. Drink, eat, enjoy yourselves. After all," I paused, letting my smile sharpen, "you've already been paid for." Laughter rippled awkwardly. Some clapped. Others just stared. But the message had landed. They weren't equals. They weren't even guests. They were beneficiaries of my success, and nothing more. The party continued, but the atmosphere was broken. Jason sulked in a corner. Brittany left early, face tight with rage. Kyle disappeared into the night, humiliated and defeated. And me? I stood tall, untouchable, the ghost of their past transformed into the ruler of their present. They had mocked me, broken me, tried to erase me. Now, I had erased them. The reunion ended the way I knew it would. Not with cheers, not with nostalgia, but with a quiet, heavy weight in the air. People left in small clusters, whispering, glancing back at me as if I were a ghost that had come to haunt them. Some tried to smile, others avoided my eyes altogether. But all of them felt it. The balance had shifted forever. When I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me like a wave of freedom. My car pulled up, sleek and black under the streetlights, and I slid inside with a calm satisfaction I'd been craving for years. My entourage laughed and congratulated me, but their words barely registered. The real victory wasn't in the praise. It was in the silence I'd left behind. Still, the true beauty of revenge isn't just in the moment. It's in the ripples that spread afterward. And oh, the ripples came fast. The next week, I started hearing things. Old classmates messaging mutual connections, gossip spilling out like a broken faucet. Brittany was the first to crumble. She'd gone pale at the reunion when she realized I owned her competitor. A few days later, word spread that her business had collapsed. Customers jumped ship, negative reviews surfaced, and her fragile empire crumbled almost overnight. She tried reaching out to me, sending long, desperate messages about working together and collaborating. I never replied. Let her sit with the silence. Jason, the golden boy, didn't fare much better. His gym, already on shaky ground, took a hit when photos from the reunion surfaced online. There he was, sweaty, overweight, scowling in the background while I stood front and center, polished and successful. Members canceled their subscriptions. His so-called buddies stopped hanging around. He'd built his entire identity on being the strongest, the most admired. Now, stripped of it, he had nothing left. I heard he tried to pick up a side hustle selling supplements online. Last I checked, he'd sold fewer than 20 bottles. And Kyle, my greatest enemy. His downfall was quiet, but devastating. After the reunion, whispers about his fraud charges resurfaced. Employers who might have given him a chance backed away. People who used to laugh at his jokes avoided him. He'd been exposed, not by a rumor, not by gossip, but by cold, undeniable truth. The man who once broadcasted my humiliation to the whole school now couldn't even find steady work. I almost pitied him. Almost. But the most satisfying part? None of it was my direct doing. I hadn't needed to destroy them with force. I simply held up a mirror, and they destroyed themselves. As for me, life went on. My company thrived, my network expanded, and for the first time, I felt light. Not because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd proven to myself that the boy they mocked never truly died. He grew. He adapted. He sharpened himself into something unstoppable. Weeks later, I got a message from an unexpected source, an old teacher. The same one who had told me to toughen up when Jason tripped me in gym class. She'd heard about the reunion. She wanted to catch up. I ignored it. Because here's the truth. I didn't need validation from the past anymore. They'd already given me everything I needed. But there's one detail I haven't shared yet. The one that made the revenge nuclear. Remember when I said I sponsored the reunion anonymously? Well, before the night was over, I arranged for every attendee to receive a small thank you gift bag, bottles of wine, gourmet snacks, a few branded items from my company. Nothing extravagant. Just enough to make it clear. Even their parting memories of that night belonged to me. A week later, photos of those gift bags started popping up on social media. My logo on their kitchen counters, in their living rooms plastered across their feeds. Every time they reached for that bottle of wine, every time they opened that snack, they were reminded, the freak had won. And here's the kicker. Months later, when some of them tried to add me on LinkedIn, I accepted. Not to reconnect, not to forgive, but because I wanted them to see. I wanted them to scroll through my profile, to watch my updates, to know every single day that I wasn't just successful. I was untouchable. It wasn't about cruelty. It wasn't about rubbing it in. It was about balance. For years, they had power over me. Now, I had taken it back in ways they could never reverse. One night, sitting alone in my apartment, I thought back to that scrawny kid with the broken glasses, lying on the gym floor while the world laughed. If I could speak to him now, I'd tell him this. Endure. Learn. Build. Because one day, you'll walk back into that same room, and every single person who laughed will wish they were you. And that's exactly what happened. The freak was gone. The victim was gone. All that remained was the storm.